Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Happy New Year. It is now 2021. I don't know where the last year has gone. Well, I do. We all know where it's gone, but we're not going to reflect on that. I wanted to kick off the new year with the work of 21 of my favourite film photographers. And when I tell you it was difficult to cut this down to just 21, I definitely intend to do more of these kind of videos throughout the year where I am kind of focusing on the work of other people, of people who inspire me, of people that I've met within the film community, because there are so many film photographers that are just insane, like insanely talented. If you guys already follow this channel, then you'll know that I'm pretty new in the world of film. You know, I've probably been shooting film for about a year properly anyway, like actually putting my time and energy into it, and I've got a long way to go. And I know for me, like looking at the work of so many other film photographers was firstly what made me want to get into film, and secondly what kind of kept me inspired. Shooting film did not come very naturally to me. I'm not a very technical person. I definitely care more about how the image looks than I do about the gear that I'm using. And when I could have been very discouraged by the whole process of film because, you know, I wasn't getting the results that I was getting with digital, seeing the work of so many film photographers across different genres kept me inspired to carry on with film photography, and still inspires me to carry on with film photography because I'm very aware that I have a long way to go with it. But I will stop talking. I'm just going to run through the video. These 21 artists are in absolutely no particular order. I couldn't have ranked them. They are just in whatever order they're in for no reason. I will link them all in the description, and I urge you to please head over and check them out. I'm going to be going through some of their photos and just talking about things that I like about their work. And I will try not to talk for too long because one of my New Year's resolutions is to make these videos a little bit more succinct. So first up, JM is one of my favourite photographers. Not just film photographers, but photographers in general. I think his work is beautiful. He has such a distinct style. Like every time I see it in my feed, I know it's his work. He manages to capture people and scenes so candidly and with such detail and emotion, but in a really kind of like simple, minimal kind of way. I love the colours and the contrast that he uses in his work. Something I'm really envious of is how he always manages to nail the exposure. You know, like even in these night shots that he did, they just look so nice. My day shots aren't even as bright and well exposed as his night shots are. Next up, Kristin Ellis. Put it simply, Kristin's work is the type of work that makes me want to travel the world. The moments that she captures are so candid and beautiful, and it just depicts everywhere that she travels in such like a stunning light. She carries the same feelings and principles through to her portraiture too. I really like the kind of candid, simple techniques that she uses to capture her subjects. Circus, also known as Michael, is one of my favourite photographers at the moment. Even though his work is so distinct to his personal style, there's never really like two of his photos that look the same, which I think is really interesting, that you can make so many different variations of your style work. You'll see through the pictures that his portrait work is so dynamic, but it still feels like really classic. That's something I love about his work and something that I want to try and introduce to my work more. Next up, Vincent, who you guys might already know from his YouTube channel. I'll link that in the description as well. Vincent is a portrait photographer. He shoots medium format and 35mm film, as well as a little bit of street stuff. The main thing I like about his work is that there's such a strong feeling of person and place, and that's really apparent in his recent projects, the London project. Being from London, that project is quite special to me, even though it's not my project, because I think it's a really good way of paying homage to a city. So I moved away from London about 4 years ago to Manchester, and I've spoken about it before, but often you don't realise how amazing where you are is until you move away. And don't get me wrong, I love Manchester, I think it's an amazing city, but I didn't realise how much I'd missed London. And Vincent's project is such an embodiment of everything I love about London. So if you haven't checked that out, It is on his YouTube, I'll link it in the description. Please head over and check that one out. Rosie is a medium format portrait photographer, and she is one of the first portrait photographers that I really fell in love with the work of, and I didn't even know who she was. When she was awarded the Portrait of Britain for this shot of Elliot, it was on interactive billboards all over London, and I remember just seeing it and thinking that's such a beautiful shot. And I didn't know who Rosie Matheson was. I didn't know anything about her work until probably a couple years later on, when I started to learn more about photography, I guess. There is a certain intimacy in her portraits that I love and that I only wish I could capture. I definitely recommend checking out her project Boys, which is also a book and a documentary. It's kind of all over the web. There's loads to do with her project Boys, and it explores the intricacies of manhood and boyhood. I'd really recommend giving it a look if for whatever reason you don't already know about Rosie's work. Ejatu is an amazing photographer, model, creative from London. Her film work is just beautiful. Her portraits are from more of an editorial standpoint. That's the way I kind of see them, with fashion playing quite a key and bold part of her work. She also does documentary stuff and also has a YouTube channel, which I will link again in the description. The thing I like most about Justice's work is the use of light. It adds this kind of depth to his image and evokes a real sense of emotion. His work is so cinematic, and it's just, I'm just going to put it up on screen because there's nothing I can really say about it that will do it justice. Next up is another YouTuber within the film community, and you guys probably already know Matt. I don't know if there's many of you that will be watching this channel if you don't already know Matt. He is predominantly a street photographer, I guess, documentary kind of style, street work. For me, his work is the true definition of street documentary photography. He captures everyday scenes in such an artistic manner. And to be able to take an everyday scene or moment and be able to capture it how you see it in such a unique way to the way the rest of the world sees it, and actually be able to present that idea, that way of seeing the world, is a proper skill. Another amazing YouTuber and documentary and street photographer is Madison. I love the way that Madison captures a scene. Her work is able to absolutely transport me into a scene. And also, something I find really interesting about her work is that it lets me see an area, a scene, a place that I'm already familiar with, that I already know about, but in a different way. Like I said about Matt, I think that kind of idea of being able to capture a scene in a way that only you can see it, to me that's a really interesting concept, because I could walk down that road 1,000 times and never see it how you see it. Alex is a photographer that I recently discovered through Twitter. Every time I see his work, it's one of those ones where you just instantly retweet it. For a really long time, I didn't even know it was his work every time that I was retweeting. I don't know if I even followed him. I just was seeing his work, in love with it, retweeting it. And then finally I put 2 and 2 together and realised that all of this amazing work was from the same artist. The way he shoots is in a way that I could only dream to be able to shoot in. He's another artist who so perfectly captures intimacy in his portraiture. I love the way in which Harry is able to pose and present his subjects. I always feel like his portraits tell a story, kind of take me through a narrative. There's such a classic feel about all of Harry's work. From the styling to the simplicity of the setups, it's also classic and simple and just the epitome of good portrait photography, good fashion portraits. Nima's close-cropped portraits are my favourites. The way he lights his subjects and puts such an emphasis on the eyes of his models in particular always makes for such beautiful portraits. He's another photographer that I was only recently introduced to, and there's a certain softness about his work which makes me just fall in love with film photography all over again. When I was talking about, certain artists inspiring me to keep on with this film thing, this film journey and developing my film skills, this body of work is a really good example of something that inspires me. The way that Emilia sets up her scenes helps to tell such beautiful stories. She always uses fashion, lighting, composition in such like an interesting way to create really beautiful and intimate portraits. This shot for Boys by Girls in particular really like drew me in. I saw it a few times actually before I realised who took it. Like, I think you'll get what I mean when you see it. Like, there's such a narrative there, there's such a story from the location to the actual act of, you know, one guy pulling the other guy up, their relationship. But more than that, it's like the actual technical composition of it, the way that it's kind of like split almost down the middle with sky and then, you know, everything happening in this lower left corner. Just, I think that's a really good epitome of Emilia's work. She's a photographer that I've only recently discovered, but one that is quickly becoming one of my favourite photographers. Vicky Grout has been a massive inspiration to me for a long time, probably since the beginning of me starting in photography, mostly from her documentation of the London grime scene, which at the beginning of my career, that's kind of where my efforts were, that's where the work that I was creating mostly centred around. But in recent months, I've fallen even more in love with her work since seeing some of her more editorial work. I think it really shows another dynamic to the kind of creative vision that Vicky has. Forrest is a really interesting artist. Notably, the way he poses his models in such dynamic ways, such interesting ways, really like struck me at first. Especially the way that he poses multiple models at once. But really everything from the use of colour to the use of location in his work is just spot on. It's another portfolio that I could just go on forever about, but I don't want to make this video 21 hours long. Danny's work proves the concept of less is more. It's a beautiful example of how you can achieve really stunning results with really simple methods. Some of my favourite of his portraits are the most simple, and that's down to everything from the way he poses his models to the way he uses light and colour. Nadine, for me, is the ultimate fashion photographer. Her work is bold and dynamic, and the way that she creates scenes is always so interesting. She plays a lot on juxtaposition between styling and location, but she does it in a way that kind of like creates harmony, and that's really interesting to me because, you know, it's very easy to, I think, envision an idea where you're using juxtaposition, but it's a lot harder to actually pull that off properly. One of my favourite things about her work is the way that she uses camera angles. It's in a way that I would never feel bold enough and brave enough to do, but she pulls it off so well. Kelia's work is really interesting to me, actually. It reminds me of something that's been pulled straight from the history books, but like in a good way. She manages to bring such like a retro and vintage feel to all of her contemporary work. From the styling and the fashion that she uses in her work to these really, you know, prominently flat, if that makes sense. The really flat colours in her work. It's so reminiscent of a different era, I guess. But what's really interesting is like seeing modern day celebrities or people that you might know from contemporary pop culture and stuff like that, photographed in such a retro way. It's kind of like that kind of juxtaposition is weird, but like it's something I really like and something I really enjoy. Maria's use of light and colour is just insanely beautiful. From her portraits to her street photography and her landscape photography, her finished roots are beautifully paid homage to throughout her work. All of Matteo's work looks like it's straight from a film, straight from a movie. The way that he lights and constructs his work, it's really easy to forget that these are actually photographs and you're not watching a paused film. So reminiscent of a film that it almost, like to a point, when the fourth wall is broken, it feels weird. It feels like there's like this tension. His portfolio is just a really beautiful diary of coming of age in the suburbs, and again, someone that tells such beautiful narratives throughout all of his work. Vuhlandes is a portrait and documentary photographer and also a fellow YouTuber, so I'll link you his videos. You guys have probably already checked out his videos. For me, two things stand out most about Vuhlandes' work: his use of narrative and storytelling. His work always feels as though there's like a story that you want to know more about, and his use of colour. The vibrancy of his work is so distinctive to his style. It's like, even if he shoots on film or digital, I know it's his work. But that really wraps up today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found some artists, some photographers that you may not have been aware of. If there's any others that you think I should check out, then please let me know in the description. I'm always looking to find new inspiration and new photographers that I love the work of. As I said, this is not an exhaustive list of all the photographers that I like. I'm definitely going to be doing more similar kind of videos to this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will link all of the photographers in the description, so please do head over and check them out. If you did enjoy this video, then please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. In 2021, I am trying to be a bit more consistent with my upload schedule. But in the meantime, you can find me over on Instagram and Twitter and all of those good places that I will link in the description as per usual. I will see you guys in the next one.